student member, so we do have a quorum. It's my pleasure to introduce to you a young lady who is a second grade student at Ruth Ann Monroe Elementary School. Her name is Jennifer Sanchez Duran, and Jennifer is here to lead us all in the pledge. So please join us by standing, and we'll have a moment of silence following the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for being here this evening. Do you have some folks here that you would like to introduce to us? I see some familiar faces there. Who's that there on the front row? Right here.
My dad,
Your dad,
and then my brother,
your brother,
and then my mom,
and your mom.
and then my principal, and then my teacher.
Oh, is that Mr. Funkhauser? Uh-huh. And what's your teacher's name?
Miss Campbell.
Miss Campbell. Well, Mom, Dad, little brother, Miss Campbell, Mr. Funkhauser, thank you for being here in support of Jennifer. Jennifer, how are things over there at Ruth Ann Monroe these days?
Good.
Good? Are you enjoying school?
Yes.
What are some of your favorite things to do? Someone told me you liked math a lot. Is that true? Yeah? Okay. And I understand you like stories. Yeah? Have you read some interesting stories? Yeah? Any you want to tell us about? Yeah? Can you name one?
We learned about Greek myths.
Great myths. Oh.
Greek.
Wow. And did you learn some interesting facts about those myths? Yeah. Wow. Now my notes tell me that you like a character, Stitch. Yeah, I don't know Stitch. What can you tell me about Stitch?
It's blue.
It's blue. Okay. And is not Stitch, not Snitch. Is Stitch a good guy or a bad guy?
No.
No?
One.
Okay. All right. But that's your favorite character?
Yes.
All right. All right. I'm going to have to find out more about Stitch. So you have just one brother or several brothers?
Two brothers.
Two brothers, because my notes tell me that you love playing at home with them. Are they good playmates?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. I bet you're an awesome big sister. Yeah. And my notes also tell me that you want to be a teacher when you grow up. I think that is wonderful. Wonderful. So good luck in your studies and good luck with that career goal, okay?
Yes.
And one day I hope that you're in a classroom here in Washington County Public Schools, okay? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. All right, at this time we'll have the approval of this evening's agenda. If I could have a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any discussion of the agenda? All those in favor of approval? All right, we have unanimous approval and the student member concurs. And we'll move to approval of the minutes.
Mrs. Williams, I have 6 motions for this portion. So we'll start with the first one, the approval of the work session minutes dated Tuesday, October 17th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Gessert. So we have a motion for approval of the work session minutes dated October 17th, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? No? All those in favor of approval? Okay, we have unanimous approval.
The second motion is for the approval of the closed session minutes dated Tuesday, October 17th, 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. All those in favor of approval of the closed session minutes? Thank you. We have a unanimous approval of those minutes.
Motion 3 is the approval of the business meeting minutes dated Tuesday, October 17th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Gessert. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any additions or corrections to the business meeting minutes of October 17th, 2023? All those in favor of approval? Okay. You're abstaining or you're approving?
Yeah,
Okay.
I approve.
All right, thank you. We have unanimous approval of those minutes.
On the fourth motion, the approval of the members of the Board of Education and members of the delegation to the Maryland General Assembly public meeting minutes dated Monday, November 6th, 2023.
Second.
Dr. Zentmeyer, any additions or corrections to those minutes? All right, we're voting on approval of the public meeting with the delegation, those minutes. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. We have unanimous approval.
Our fifth motion is the approval of the closed session minutes dated Tuesday, November 7th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Kester. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. We're voting to approve the closed session minutes of November 7th, 2023. All those in favor? We have unanimous approval.
And finally, the sixth motion is the approval of the closed session minutes open portion dated Tuesday, November 7th, 2023.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. So do we have any additions or corrections to those open portion minutes? No? Okay, then we're voting to approve the open portion of the closed session meeting of November 7th, 2023. All those in favor? Okay, we have unanimous approval. Is that it, Mr. Gessert?
That is it.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll move now to the superintendent's report. Dr. Sovine.
Thank you, President Williams and members of the board. We have 2 exciting recognitions to start this evening. First, we have 11 students from 2 of our high schools who have earned medals at this year's Future Farmers of America National Convention. I'd like to invite Tanya Rowe, our Career and Technical Education Content Specialist, to introduce these students and their advisors.
Thank you very much. To say I'm proud of these students, that would be an understatement. They have worked hard for all year to study to do this and to go out to the 96th National FFA Convention and compete against thousands of other students. When I say thousands, there was upwards of 72,000 of us out there. And when you see 65 students and blue and gold and all of those coats, it's an amazing experience. So from Boonesboro High School, we have top 10 in the nation, placing gold for dairy handler Addison Malott. In meat evaluation, we received silver overall, and Catherine Wiles with silver placement. Lily Rumpf with bronze placement. And 2 others not with us, Taylor Wiles and Sam DeLeo. For marketing plan, placing in bronze, For the team, Destiny Hurt. 2 others not here, Paige Rohr and Faith Santora. And they are accompanied by their advisors, Amy Werner and Elizabeth Comstock. From Clear Spring High School in Ag Communications, bronze overall, we have Danielle Vaughn placing silver. Lynx Fisher placing bronze. Emily Shoemaker, bronze. And Emily Yonker, bronze. And their advisors are Amanda Farmer and Brian Long.
Mood lighting.
Congratulations.
We also have a teacher and her achievement at the state level to celebrate this evening. I'll ask Amy Seiler, our supervisor of math and science, tell us more about this award and introduce us to this outstanding math educator.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Savine, President Williams, and members of the board. The Maryland Council of Teachers of Mathematics honors outstanding educators each year by way of a nomination and application process to individuals who exemplify excellence in mathematics education by implementing research-informed practices in their daily work. At a banquet earlier this fall, the Maryland Council of Teachers of Mathematics recognized Williamsport Elementary School fourth grade teacher Kimberly Rochelle as the 2023 MCTM Outstanding Mathematics Educator in the Elementary Teacher category. Mrs. Rochelle has been a teacher with WCPS for 25 years and has been teaching at Williamsport Elementary for the last 7 years. She also serves as our current fourth grade district math lead teacher, where she takes on additional leadership roles, curriculum writing, and teachers are welcome to visit her classroom. If you have not had the opportunity to visit Mrs. Rochelle's classroom, I encourage you to stop by and engage with her students. What you will see will amaze you for sure. And in conclusion, I wanted to share a quote from Mrs. Rochelle's application essay that will give you just a glimpse into her classroom and into her heart for students and for mathematics. It is vital that the students must feel that all responses have value and are important in order for them to feel safe in taking risks as they explore math concepts. As a result, they will not be afraid to make mistakes during the learning experiences and will gain confidence in their ability to persevere and solve problems. And that's what it's all about. Mrs. Kimberly Rochelle, MCTM's 2023 Outstanding Mathematics Educator in Elementary Teaching. Congratulations, Kim.
Thank you. Come see my class.
I would love to. Thank you for the invitation. Mrs. Anderson? I can't have the
Need
sign
to
up
get the
sheet for
fourth
public
grade.
comment.
Dang.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram.
Sounds like you're in a car, Gary. What's that?
President Williams, that does conclude the first portion of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Savine. That brings us to the portion of the meeting where we have public comment. And before I read the first name on the list, I'd like to read from policy KD regarding procedure at business meetings. Each person wishing to address the Board of Education is encouraged but not required to sign up prior to the meeting and may address any topic concerning Washington County Public Schools except personnel or student matters which clearly identify an individual or individuals. Individuals wishing to address the board who do not sign up prior to the start of the meeting will be required to sign the log located at the speaker's table for the purpose of the meeting's minutes. Each person may speak for up to 5 minutes. Mrs. Murray is our timekeeper. Would you like to explain the way that works, Mrs. Murray?
When you have 30 seconds left, I will hold this up, and when your time is up, I will hold this up.
Thank you. At this time, I have one name on the list of people who have signed up in advance, and that's Mrs. Ashley McCusker. Mrs. McCusker? Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I am here today to raise awareness about what is being taught in the CKLA curriculum. I want to first make it very clear that this is something teachers are being forced to teach. So if you have any issues, the complaint needs to be directed to someone else. I especially feel bad for those teachers who are of different faiths and are being forced to teach children religion that goes against that faith. I am hoping the board members will be able to direct us to where we place our concerns. For me personally, I was able to meet with the CKLA curriculum coordinator, and they gave my husband and I access to review the curriculum and note what we had problems with. My daughter was provided the chance to do a different lesson the day the lesson we had issues with was to be taught. I'm very thankful for being allowed to have the option to opt out of the lesson. The problem is that this was the last lesson we had flagged, so the majority of what I didn't want my daughter exposed to, she had already been taught. I know there will be parents out there that do not have a problem with the information being taught to their children, and that is fine. I just wish this was something taught at home and not at school. You are able to teach your child anything you want. I, however, am not able to unteach my child. In full transparency, teachers do send home letters before each section and give an overview of things our children will be taught. I did see that they were going to be talking about different religions, but I guess I didn't understand exactly how in-depth it would go. The only reason I know now is because my daughter came home crying one night after school and said she didn't like what they were teaching in school. So I'm hoping to make other parents and caregivers aware so they too are able to review the curriculum if they see fit. For context, my daughter is in 2nd grade and is 7 years old. When I asked my daughter what had her so upset, she said they said in China they have over 300 million gods and goddesses and that each are in charge of different things. She asked me why they would tell her that when we believe in Jesus. See, the issue isn't about what religion is right or wrong. It's about the fact that small children aren't able to distinguish between being presented these big ideas or feeling like they are being told their religion is wrong. At the age of 7, this is what I have told my daughter in reference to other religions. I told her that we believe in Jesus, but there are other religions out there that do not. And that is okay because God gives everyone free will, and that means they are able to choose whatever religion they want. He wants everyone to choose him, but in the end, it is their choice. And it is our job to still love them and pray for them and hope that one day they find Jesus. Presenting religion in this way to my daughter is an age-appropriate way of letting her know there are different religions that believe different things, and that no matter what religion someone is, we respect their decision and still love them. What I am uncomfortable with is the extent in which religion is being taught in the CKLA curriculum. From what I understand, the CKLA curriculum is geared towards pre-K through 8th grade. I feel this is completely backwards. When children are this young and impressionable, they shouldn't be taught something that goes against what many of us considered the most important building block in our foundation. These lessons present what they call big ideas, and they are right. It's too big for a child to be taught in elementary school, where they have no navigation from their parents, who are their spiritual leaders of the family. Children this young don't understand that you are trying to broaden their horizon. They view teachers as authority and don't understand why they would be teaching them something different than what their parents are teaching them. I was able to print off some of the CKLA curriculum from their online website to show some examples of what I feel uncomfortable with being taught. I apologize ahead of time if I say any of the names or places wrong. In one of the sections, there was an actual Hindu prayer from a holy man. There's an array of Hindu gods, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and what they represent, describing Dharma or the reincarnation cycle, discussing Diwali, and then the pausing point section of the book, asking students to pretend like they lived in the city of the Indus River Valley, celebrated the first Diwali, journeyed to the Ganges or learned from Buddha, and then describe what they saw or heard. Gave the option for holding a class Diwali celebration, telling the story of Buddha along with the Four Noble Truths, then asking students to retell the Four Noble Truths. Activities asking students to choose a card that they must then perform an action to give a clue about the picture, such as meditating under a tree for a long time representing Buddha. This is just a few examples of what feels like crossing religious lines to me. I was told that these activities and questions do not have to be taught, but at the same time, it does not mean that they are not being taught. I just wanted to bring to light this issue so that parents who are unaware of how in-depth these lessons go are also able to review the curriculum and flag lessons that go against their religious beliefs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McCusker. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak during public comment? Good evening.
Good evening. Sorry. My note's ready. Good evening. My name's Chris Dennis. I'm here representing the Clear Spring Band and Orchestra Boosters. Given that we're coming round to new budget for financial year 2025, the Band and Orchestra Boosters wanted to sort of communicate some things that were concerning them before we get too deep into this process, particularly in anticipation of, I believe, January 15th. There's a first draft review where you get an opportunity to see the planned budget for 2025. So I guess I'll start with the positives. I'm going to try and abide by the rules. I only have positive things to say about people, but I'm going to try and avoid mentioning names. The personnel situation, I'll call it, is great. Personnel are doing an exemplary job of leading the program. Freshman numbers are up. There are probably twice as many freshmen as there has been in the past. Extrapolation would lead to a doubling of ensemble sizes, so doubling of marching band. We'd be looking at a 40-piece band probably, or potentially more. That's a really healthy size, particularly given the feedback that we've had already from sort of musical people in the community is that the Clear Spring Band sounds good at 20-odd. It will sound a huge amount better at 40. They've shown great progress through the season. Football shows have been improving game by game. They had great feedback from Showcase. I know Veterans Day, they did a show and it was stellar. So the program is going great. The environment is not ideal. A lot of the things that the band and orchestra boosters were concerned about are showing up in the fact that ultimately a halftime split site position is really a stretch for what you're trying to run. It's causing problems mainly in scheduling. So at the moment we're looking at an AM schedule and then the teacher is trying to pick up PM sub work to stay on site so that after-school programs can happen. But the problem is you don't know when you're going to pick up subwork. And if you don't pick up subwork, then you're asking somebody to stay after they finish at lunchtime to try and do after school, but they can't be paid. And that's a big ask for somebody to give up all that time and just hang around unpaid. The other thing is that the site splitting does weird things to organization, right? So the lesson schedule is set, the contract is set, but the site splitting and all the time to move between and the planning, what happens is that's the thing that gets squeezed, right? So the planning gets squeezed, which means organization is very difficult. And the reality is, even though you're running half-time, you still have a full program to organize. So the amount of sort of paperwork and everything else doesn't drop. So it puts a lot of pressure down. The other thing we're having problems with is the middle school not marching is causing weird things with recruitment, right? So you've got this elementary school, music program solid, middle school, music program fine, but it's out of step. So they stop marching through middle school, and that means that trying to sell marching band as a high school program when you've got middle school students that don't know it, and then trying to orchestrate coordination between band boosters and middle school has also been tricky. So that's something we'd like to see worked on in the new year. Well, ideally, we'd like to see it worked on now. I'm trying to keep an eye on my time, sorry. So that's been tricky. And I guess the timing is, we know that this review is coming up. We think that the evidence that we have is that the personnel decision was great, right? We've got the right person in the job. It's just not enough of a job right now. It needs to be a full-time split at a minimum. It'd be great to have elementary school full-time, high school full-time, but at least a full-time split between the two. That way you've got a staff member employed for the full day. Scheduling becomes easier. The organizational work can be spread across more hours and you put less stress. There's more money coming in. That all helps. The other thing I would say is freshman numbers support it, right? If we're seeing a doubling, the freshman numbers support, then double the hours. Let's fund this as per demand. The other thing I would stress is that we need that, thank you, now, and we need it to be stable. So we need a commitment that it will go full-time split and stay full-time split. If we can do that, I think, given where the personnel situation is, we'll see really good growth and really good progress. We just need to find the money to fund this thing properly. So to that end, when this comes up and the draft appears, I hope it's got a full-time split position. If it doesn't, please ask why. And if it does, please support it with everything you've got.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Would you
I
take
will.
a minute and fill
Yep.
out the log for us?
I'll move aside in case there's
Thank
another
you for your
person.
comments. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak during this time? Good evening.
I'm Ethan Lowen, and I am concerned for the safety of Jewish students in our schools in the midst of this wave of anti-Semitism, the likes of which America has never seen. You know, since Hamas's attack on Israel, the Anti-Defamation League has recorded a 388% increase in assaults and batteries against Jewish people and a 1,000% increase in online anti-Semitic hate speech. And just 60 miles from us, the Democratic Socialists of America rioted against police. But it is not just because of violent mobs that I am concerned for students. The wave of anti-Semitism is concentrated in institutions that follow the social and political philosophy known as diversity, equity, and inclusion, the Democratic Socialists of America being one such group. But the same day as Hamas's brutalization of Jewish people in Israel, the support of Hamas from DEI organizations began. Black Lives Matter, the original diversity, equity, and inclusion activist group, put out a social media post supporting Hamas as fellow fighters against colonialism and capitalism. So DEI institutions around America applaud Hamas at the same time that anti-Semitic violence is increasing by multiples and riots are occurring unnervingly close to us. It's obvious why I'm concerned for the safety of Jewish children. But my concerns about whether our community's public schools can be a safe haven from anti-Semitism comes from several factors. Because this board has itself shown a consistent commitment to DEI, and it is the DEI education institutions whose anti-Semitism is the most concerning. DEI universities are home to some of the most naked anti-Semitic protests, where the standard order of events involves chants such as the one solution, Intifada revolution, followed by speeches that include the statement, there will be no satisfaction as long as a Jewish state exists, but Jews would be welcomed into a secular socialist Palestinian state, followed by additional chants such as no Jews from the river to the sea, which is Hamas's slogan that calls for the nation of Israel, which exists from the Jordan River and extends to the Mediterranean Sea, to be eradicated of Jews. In other words, it's a call for a Holocaust. And the leaders of these DEI education institutions give these groups free rein in keeping with the prevailing attitude of DEI institutions nationally. In response, donors have been pulling their funds from these institutions, and families everywhere are asking themselves if sending their children to DEI schools, even elementary school, is a wise choice, sending them under the pretense of receiving an education if they are also social engineering programs. Therefore, it is understandable why I'm concerned that this school board, which has enacted DEI policies despite parental objections and regularly writes additional DEI policies, what would your response be to anti-Semitism when in so many ways you're indistinguishable from other DEI institutions? Anti-Semitism is the oldest and most lethal of all bigotries throughout history, and there is a strong correlation to when bigotry in a culture reaches a certain level to when anti-Semitism comes to the forefront. I've seen an interesting analysis as to why this correlation occurs so regularly throughout history. But what also illustrates what hangs in the balance is 2 years ago, one of the candidates who ran for lieutenant governor of our state. She lived through the war and genocide in Bosnia, and one of the reasons she gave for seeking office is the similarities between America today and Bosnia in the years leading up to what she survived. A second individual is campaigning to be a U.S. senator for our state right now. And the reason he gives for running up for office is because he survived a genocide in Nigeria. And just as with our candidate for lieutenant governor, he also talks about the environment in America being so similar to what he experienced in Nigeria that he is compelled to fight to save America from the same fate. This has to make your skin crawl. In the entire history of our state, I doubt even one candidate has made their political platform fears about genocide. But within 2 years, we have 2 survivors of genocide doing exactly that. And we are now faced with actual support for a genocidal group from mainstream American institutions, a first ever event in our history. Because anti-Semitism is so frequently a reflection of the overall level of bigotry within a nation, the solution is not to fight anti-Semitism per se. The solution is to fight the culture of bigotry that has grown to the point of blossoming into anti-Semitism. And America's modern-day bigotry is the philosophy of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It divides people into groups. Those individuals are then categorized into levels of oppressed groups versus oppressor groups. And the adherents of DEI are told that the oppressed groups need you to protect them from the oppressor groups. In reality, when governments divide people into groups and force certain treatments of those groups, it always results in tragedy. Therefore, this board must end the bigotry of DEI and replace its policies with just one policy. Get rid of the DEI policies, replace it with one policy that just bans social engineering. And I believe that's what your role in this solution can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowen. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward, speak during this time?
Hello, President Williams, Dr. Sovine, and members of the Board of Education. I'm Carol Mowen with WCTA, and that probably took 10 seconds I didn't have to give you, so I'm going to start right away. With the first marking period completed and the second marking period underway, I'm sure that most, if not all, students, teachers, support personnel, and administrators are grateful for the upcoming Thanksgiving break. Reasons likely include an opportunity to rest, spend time with family and friends, and walk away from the obligations and workload each school day brings. For many, though, the short break won't stop their work because the cycle continues, and we must be ready for Monday when it comes. But Thanksgiving does provide an opportunity to pause. It gives us an opportunity to reflect and be thankful for the way that our work makes a difference in the lives of our students and communities. So I'm here tonight to share with you some of my thanks. I am thankful for the spirit of open communication and collaboration that WCTA leaders have been able to develop with many members of the WCPS administrative team. Thank you, Dr. Sovine. I am thankful for the continuation of 5 specific 2-hour early dismissal days for teachers to use for planning purposes in this year's school calendar. Thank you, Calendar Committee. I am thankful for the work of teachers, educational support personnel, and administrators who in many schools are understaffed and daily face workloads they cannot complete. Thank you for your work and your dedication. I am thankful for our 1,443 WCTA members for their commitment to our schools, students, and profession, and for our building reps, committee chairs, and members and boards of directors, our board of directors who lead our organization. It takes a team, and I am grateful for their leadership and involvement. As an organization, our top priority is to advocate for working conditions that put the brains and bodies of educators at the forefront of all decisions so we can provide our best for our students. Last week, many schools observed American Education Week. AEW was founded in 1919 because early 20th century leaders were concerned that 25% of the country's World War I draftees were illiterate and 9% were physically unfit. In response, representatives of the National Education Association and the American Legion met to seek ways to generate support for public education. Within 2 years, in 1921, educators in Washington County formed the Washington County Teachers Association. And since then, we've seen many changes in our local, state, and national public schools that have made them more accessible and rigorous for all students. Our members continue to work for improved educational outcomes for students while addressing the challenges that impede their progress. We need continued collaboration to see beyond the current configuration of our schools and school days to imagine how innovative school schedules, increased planning time, and appropriate staffing can prepare our students for their futures in our complex global community. Thank you for your work on this Board of Education to deliberate and make decisions that affect us all. Thank you, and happy
Thank you,
Thanksgiving.
Mrs. Mallon. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward and speak during public comment? Okay. At this time, we'll have board member response to public comment. Colleagues, anyone care to speak?
Yeah, I would like to say a couple things regarding Ms. McCusker. I was under the impression that this stuff was, like the religion was just told that there was, people that thought other than what we might think or whatever it may be, just that there were other religions. So it said from what she was saying, it sounds like that was going a little further in depth. Can we do a review on that and make sure that we're not teaching these things as fact and that we're just, explaining that this is what other people think and the purpose of it is just to build the context? Can we kind of do a review of that, Dr. Sovine?
I believe I would invite Dr. Willow forward now, and I want to provide a little additional context to the question in terms of the intent of the new curriculum, which is to build vocabulary and ultimately fluent readers. So we'll speak to that, and the content does cover coverage of different religions, but the emphasis is not on proselytizing one religion over the other.
Right.
Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Sovine. The new CKLA curriculum that we approved last spring, after going through, if you all recall, a review process that included many parent nights, feedback. I think we had 60-plus staff members also involved in that pilot, and we approved it last February. This summer, the curriculum team got together, and looking at the CKLA curriculum, to go into what you shared, Mr. Evans, there's 2 points to it. One, teaching those basic literacy skills that we've talked about, decoding, phonics. The other piece is knowledge. And this is a curriculum that's based on science, the arts, and history. And when we look at histories, we're looking at ancient civilizations. We will get into Egypt. We will get into the Greek and Roman Empire. We will also cover Asian civilizations. We cover civilizations from around the world, including the early American civilizations. And because religion plays a part of some of the beliefs of those early civilizations, it is also covered. It is not taught in the sense that this is what you as a student must believe. It is meant to be taught in terms of facts. The guidance that teachers have received is when we are teaching this, we're advised to inform parents and caregivers of the rationale prior to covering these topics. So we do send home the letters, or we also have the curriculum maps and the letters on our website. If a question comes up around the different faiths and a student does ask what is true, these are questions that we refer to the adults at home. We don't get into the conversation about what's right and what's wrong. But when we look around the world and the understanding of world civilizations, in absence of religion, really it's hard to understand why some of those civilizations developed the way that they did. So everything is out there, and obviously we understand that there may be parents that are not comfortable with some of those topics. We do have a policy that governs, and that is policy KEC. And in this case, when a parent addresses a concern with the principal at the school level, an alternative assignment can be made available.
Thank you. And then the only other thing I just wanted to add was, and I'm sorry, I forget your name, the gentleman that spoke on behalf of the Clear Spring Band. I appreciate a lot of people do come up and complain about stuff we are or are not doing. I do appreciate that you offered a solution as well. So thank you for doing the homework there. And I, for one, have heard you. So thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. This time we'll move to old business. Our first item of old business is the second reading of proposed changes to policy BEE, administrative hearings and appeals. Good evening, Mrs. Rand.
Thank you, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Savine. The Board of Education approved the first reading of proposed changes to policy BEE at its public business meeting on October 17, 2023. The Policy Committee placed a notice on board docs on the school system's website following the approval, seeking comments from the public on the proposed changes to the policy. No comments have been received. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy BEE.
Thank you. Is there a motion, please?
And I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy BEE entitled Administrative Hearings and Appeals.
Thank you, Mr. Bixby. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions or any discussion? Move to the vote. We're voting to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy BEE entitled Administrative Hearings and Appeals. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we have 6 affirmative. Student member concurs. Motion carries. Our next action item is the second reading of proposed changes to policy KHC, distribution and posting of community informational materials for schools.
The Board of Education approved the first reading of proposed changes to policy KHC at its public business meeting on October 17, 2023. The Policy Committee placed a notice on the board docs of the school system's website following the approval, seeking comments from the community on the proposed changes. No comments have been received. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy KHC.
Thank you, Mrs. Rand. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy KHC entitled Distribution and Posting of Community Information Materials in Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion? Mr. Gessard.
I was wondering if you could just explain the difference of the policy before versus the policy now. What kind of changes?
the changes we made, well, some were just formatting to correct grammar. The largest changes, we currently are already determining what's appropriate, most appropriate method, whether it's a handout in a backpack or peach jar or display, but we didn't have that written in the policy. So we added that to the policy. And that also, we didn't have the language to promulgate administrative regulation should we need to actually provide more clarification like we do in regulations. We've added that language. That's the biggest change.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy KHC entitled Distribution and Posting of Community Information Material in Schools. All those in favor? Okay. 7 affirmative and the student member concurs. We have an approved second reading. All right. We'll move now to new business. Our first item of new business is the first reading of proposed changes to policy JFC, Code of Conduct, Respect, Responsibility, and Civil Behavior, and the first reading of proposed rescission of policy JGC, Academic Integrity.
The Policy Committee reviewed policies JFC and JGC at its public work sessions on August 8th and November 16th, 2023. At the August 8th, 2023 work session, the committee requested staff to form a work group with stakeholders to review both policies. A work group was formed of staff, students, and community members who recommended a complete revision to policy JFC by striking the current content and rescinding policy JGC, and also renaming JFC simply to Code of Conduct. The work group recommended that policy JFC be updated to address codes of conduct for respect and responsibility and academic responsibility, the latter of which was previously addressed in policy JGC. The work group's proposal co-adjutes to the two policies and aligns with our school climate and culture work that we're currently doing in all of our programs. The committee reviewed the work group's proposed changes and concurred with the recommendations made. The committee offered some further changes to policy JFC and is now requesting that the Board of Education approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy JFC and the proposed rescission to policy JGC.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy JFC entitled Code of Conduct, Respect, Responsibility, and Civil Behavior, and the first reading of the proposed rescission of policy JGC entitled Academic Integrity.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Are there any questions, any discussion regarding the policy and rescission? Mr.
Yeah, I just
Stauffer?
want to emphasize that we did not get rid of the policy on academic integrity and standards for academic integrity. They were incorporated into this new policy. So I'll make that completely clear before somebody comes in and says, you got rid of academic integrity. All right?
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer.
Williams?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question concerning how this gets put out to the students.
That's a good question. Not only is it in our board policy, but we don't expect students, well, we could, but we don't really expect students to read the policies. It is in the handbook. And so there's also information in the that we will put in a regulation that'll also be included in the handbook. And I know a question had come up on JGC where we have a student signing off. That's all part of the student handbook acknowledgement. So we're not losing those pieces and we're not sharing it by any differently. It's the same methods, as well as the schools. My understanding is a lot of them also incorporate that in the first week of school. They have a discussion about these topics.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Mr. Bickford's motion, Mr. Stauffer's second, for the approval of the first reading of proposed changes to policy JFC entitled Code of Conduct, Respect, Responsibility, and Civil Behavior, and the first reading of the proposed rescission of policy JGC entitled Academic Integrity. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative, student member concurs. Motion carries. Next item of new business is the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEC, drug-free workplace.
The state of Maryland legalized the purchase and possession of cannabis and cannabis products for recreational use by adults 21 years of age and older on July 1st, 2023. The Policy Committee thought it prudent to review policy GBEC at its public work session on November 16th, 2023, in light of the change in the law. The committee reviewed the policy and recommended the definition of drug be updated to include cannabis or a cannabis product as defined in policy ADC, use and possession of tobacco and cannabis products, which was also recently updated to prohibit cannabis and cannabis products on Board of Education property or at sponsored events. The committee also recommended specifically stating the policy that all Washington County public school employees will abstain from the possession or distribution of cannabis and cannabis products and from being under the influence of cannabis while engaged in school duties or on school property. At this time, the committee is requesting the Board of Education to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEC.
Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEC entitled Drug-Free Workplace.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions or any discussion? We move to the vote. We're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEC entitled Drug-Free Workplace. All those in favor of approval? We have 7 affirmative votes. Student member concurs. Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Our next item, Mrs. Ram will be presenting a settlement for approval.
I'm respectfully requesting that the board approve the settlement agreement as previously discussed earlier in closed session.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the settlement agreement and release of claims for the Office of Administrative Hearings, case number MSDE-WASH-OT-23-20057.
Mr. Stauffer, is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Okay, as this was discussed in closed session, unless you have a procedural question from Mrs. Ram, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the settlement agreement and release of claims for the Office of Administrative Hearings, case number MSDE-WASH-OT-23-20057. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative. Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Ram. That brings us to the consideration of this evening's consent agenda with Mr. Scott Bagdell, Supervisor of Purchasing, presenting. Good afternoon, or good evening, Mr. Bagdell.
Good evening, President
Well
Williams.
past afternoon.
Yes, it is. You're right. Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Sovine. Tonight I have 12 items for your review. The Purchasing Review Committee has reviewed these items and they are being recommended for approval, and staff is available if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bagdell. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements for security equipment and service to Atlantic Security Systems, Inc. at the unit prices listed. Design build HVAC work platform at Boonesboro High School to Key Safety, Inc. at a cost of $78,249. Elementary math supplemental instruction materials to Hand to Mind at a cost of $194,890. Bulk motor oil and fluids to PPC Lubricants, LLC at an approximate cost of $60,000. Unit price contracts for flooring installation and repair at a Carpet Gallery and Dorsey Brothers at the unit prices listed. WAN Services redundant fiber circuit to Antietam Broadband at a recurring monthly charge of $8,474. Mobile device management for Apple products renewal to CDWG at a cost of $113,428. Milk, other dairy products, and fruit juices to Dairy Made Dairy, LLC at the unit prices listed. Mechanical and refrigeration maintenance for Food Service Department renewal to MTS Equipment for mechanical at a cost of $35,928, plus the cost of non-consumable parts, and Thai Construction Company, Inc. for refrigeration at a cost of $66,150, plus the cost of non-consumable parts and refrigerant. Elementary math supplemental resource to U.S. Math Recovery Council at a cost of $58,459.30. Information Technology Service Management to Incident IQ LLC at a 2-year cost of $189,114.39. And Microsoft licenses renewal to Bell Techlogix at a cost of $87,069.60.
Thank you, Mr. Bixby. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions, any discussion?
Yeah, I do have a couple questions. So on a bunch of these, for the contract renewals, a lot of them, the renewal starts January 1. But a couple of them start December 1. And we're really kind of butt up against, the deadline here if we don't approve these today, which quite frankly, they all seem very reasonable requests. I have no issue with any of them, but if there was an issue with any of these, we're almost forced, especially like I'm looking at the security equipment, we're almost forced to do that because we can't go without that security equipment, right? So we're essentially forced into this. And, I've brought this up in the past, a couple years ago where, when we push ourselves up against the deadline like that, we have no choice but to say yes. So is there a reason why we don't get to approve these more in advance? Is there something that happens there?
I mean, a lot of it's just workload, to be honest with you. And it also depends on how busy a time is and how long a bid takes to, sometimes there's extensions we have to put on them to, if we've put out an addendum that requires more time, it could require us to move the due date back. With the one board meeting a month that we can bring them to now, it also kind of, if we miss one, we're a month later. So we try to get these, and renewals especially, I try to get them a couple months in advance. Sometimes we're waiting on the vendor to reply and to get us the information we need to be able to renew. But, we try to get things sent to you guys, presented.
And you do let us know what is going to be up for, so I do appreciate that. That has been a great change, and you guys have been great with that, so I do appreciate it. I'm just thinking, like I said, it's not necessarily good business to go and do it that way. I don't know if maybe sometime in the future, maybe if we, because workload or whatever, I know you guys are busy, I know everyone's busy, maybe we renewed for a month-to-month contract for, a couple months if it's necessary. Because the reason why I asked this question is, looking at that number one, the security equipment service, there was only one bid, and adding up everything that according to Atlantic, that we're going to purchase, or at least up to that amount, is about $170,000. And it looks like you reached out to Spikers to get a quote. I don't know if you reached out to them or.
So they submitted a proposal. Unfortunately, we had an addendum that required a new price proposal. So we issued a new addendum in Addendum 1. They didn't submit that price proposal.
Okay.
They also added things to our price proposal, which we tell them specifically not to do because we're trying to compare, apples to apples when we get pricing in. If we're asking for, a price per month or a price per unit or whatever, and if they add something, we can't take their number and assume.
Right.
Compared to somebody who hasn't done that.
Would it be reasonable to expect that Spikers added stuff to that because we're currently using proprietary stuff that Atlantic has, so they have no choice but to go and purchase that?
We put the bid out and they have the opportunity to ask questions. They did not ask any questions on anything that we had put out. But they actually added down in the section on the monitoring with the different, whether it was a POTS line or a cell line, which if it wasn't clear, that could have been a question that they submitted to us, and we could have answered for everybody. That's what it really comes down to, is making sure that all vendors have the same information when they're submitting to us.
Right.
Yeah.
because I did reach out to a couple people in the field, and because this is a pretty big contract, I would imagine anyone would be happy to have this contract.
Yeah.
And I did reach out, and I was told from the owner of one company who said that the reason why they didn't submit a bid, because you could go find all this stuff online, the reason why they didn't submit a bid is because they wouldn't have been able to compete in price because they would have to go and change out something in the control management system, or I forget exactly what he called it, but they would have had to go and do that. So my concern is that, and I feel like we've had that discussion before with some of the other stuff we've purchased, where when we do go and buy some things, we almost lock ourselves into a marriage with some of these companies, because to go and switch out, it just isn't reasonable, because once you start, you have to go and kind of move other things around. I don't know if that kind of makes sense, but like we kind of lock ourselves into it, and I don't know if there's a way to kind of avoid that too. And I see Mr. Prue coming up, so I don't know if you have an answer for that.
Yes and no. I mean, there are contracts that you do get pinned in and almost locked in. For instance, if we were talking about, let's say, our digital control system for our HVAC systems across the county, once you have a system in, it's more costly to replace the system than to stay with the vendor that you're currently working with long-term. Because you're talking about swapping out head systems, controls, all sorts of other proprietary equipment. As it relates to this specific bid, and this bid over the last, I think about the 15 years, 16 years that I've been here, we've bid this several times, and we've been with Atlantic Security a long time. One of the challenges to this specific bid is not necessarily that we have proprietary information or services that are required, but it really comes down to service response time, especially if we're talking about the safety and security of our buildings. So if a badge reader is down that, let's say, that allows a door to stay in a fully unlocked position, that needs to be responded to in short order. And so we need companies that can respond within that time frame. So that was one of the requirements of this bid, which may have hampered the number of businesses that could have submitted. We had questions and back and forth. We had several vendors that we were working with throughout the process. I think at the end of the day, they realized they couldn't meet that delivery time. But I'll stand behind that delivery time. If that shrinks our pool of bidders, I'll stand behind that because it makes our buildings safer. Right. There are companies locally that can submit that pricing, and occasionally we run into anomalies where when you're dealing with a sealed bid process on bid day, the paperwork's not right, and it's not fair to the vendors. It's a catch-22, right? Could the vendor that submitted paperwork wrong been a less expensive vendor? Maybe. But is it fair to the other vendors that dot the I's, cross the T's, that
I'm not saying that you should go and make exceptions. You're absolutely right on that.
So I think that's the case, sort of, when we think about this particular bid, to your question, we also have great service from Atlantic. And they've worked with us a long time, and none of our systems are proprietary. We're using off-the-shelf systems that any vendor could support.
And we did have some vendors who asked questions about the response time, and because we had an hour response time, like they needed to be located within an hour. And then, so we had some that kind of fell right outside that. And so we said, well, tell us how you will service our emergencies, and actually none of the vendors who submitted those questions bid. So I mean.
The thought process there was, I'm located, let's say, in Northern Virginia. I'm just outside the 1 hour run, especially when we consider traffic. But I have other accounts in Washington County, and I have staff that reside in Washington County. I have a tech in Washington County 40 hours a week. I would accept that, and we would entice that vendor to submit. But ultimately, at the end of the day, those vendors did not choose to submit.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements as presented, as read by Mr. Bickford and seconded by Mrs. Murray. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous vote, 7 affirmatives with the student member concurring. Thank you.
Thank you.
we have a donation. Dr. Willow presenting. Dr. Willow?
Good evening again, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Savine. I'm here this evening to ask for your donation of 3,230 pairs of laboratory goggles from Taylor Science Centers to support laboratory instruction in all of our secondary science classrooms.
Thank you, Dr. Willow. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams, I move to approve a donation of 3,200 pairs of laboratory goggles from Taylor Science Centers to support laboratory instruction in science classrooms.
Thank you, Dr. Savine. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions for Dr. Willow or any discussion? Mr.
What
Stauffer?
are Taylor Science Centers?
Taylor Science is it's a company that sells different science lab materials or curriculum. We have some materials from them, but an opportunity presented itself, and I'm thankful to the secondary science team for Mr. Longenberger in particular for taking advantage of this and securing this donation.
I have a question. Now, just for clarification, when you read it, did you say 3,230?
Closed my book, hold on.
I'm sorry, because that's not what we have here, and I was just curious.
I think the official is 3,230 pairs. My apologies, I see where that recommended piece up top was different, so I can go back. I don't know, in that case.
I don't know if it makes a difference or not, I just wanted to make sure that we got those extra 30.
I will make sure we get those extra 30 pairs.
And my motion to 3,230.
Just say all of them that they're willing to offer.
We'll take them all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Willow.
Thank you.
Okay, our final item of new business.
Do you want to vote on that, or?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I didn't think you voted
We
you.
did not. We're voting to approve a donation of laboratory goggles from the Taylor Science Center to support laboratory instruction in science classrooms. All those in favor? So we have a unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. The student member concurs. Thank you for catching my oversight there. Our last item of new business to affirm committee nominations that have already been sent into MABE in order to meet a deadline. So we will be officially approving these self-nominations for the Maryland Association of Boards of Education committees. So we have two MABE committees for which we need a representative from our board. One is the Budget Committee, and Mrs. Murray has volunteered to serve on that committee. The other is the Legislative Committee that requires not only a representative but an alternate. Mr. Stauffer has agreed to be the member of the committee, and I will be serving as the alternate. The Educational Equity Committee, I have volunteered to serve on that committee. Dr. Zentmeyer has volunteered to serve on the Nominating Committee, and Mr. Bickford has agreed to serve as the alternate. The Policy and Procedures Committee, I have offered to serve on that committee, and also the Resolutions Committee, I have offered to serve on that committee. I have chaired that committee for the past 2 years. And Mr. Bickford has agreed to put his name forward as a member of the MABE Awards Committee. So I'm asking for a motion for this board to approve those self-nominations so that they can be confirmed with MABE.
President Williams, I move to approve the self-nominations for MABE committee assignments as presented by President Williams and the sending of a board endorsement of those nominations to MABE.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stalfer. Any questions, any discussion? All those in favor? All right, we have a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. Thank you. And that brings us to the second half of the superintendent's report. Dr. Savine.
Yes, thank you, President Williams. Schools across the country continue to address the teacher shortage. I'd like to give our board a look at our strategies and our success in Washington County. At this time, I'll invite Tim Haynes in our Human Resources Office and Joni Burkhart, our Supervisor of Professional Learning, to join us now and provide more information regarding this topic.
Good evening, Mrs. Williams, Dr. Savine, and members of the board. Joni Burkhart and I are pleased to share information about WCPS teacher recruitment, hiring, and teacher induction for the 2023-24 school year. Recruitment efforts are driven by the creation of new positions and teacher turnover. While the resignations and non-renewal numbers are still high, we are encouraged to see that retirements appear to be leveling back to past averages. These overall numbers are in line with state and national turnover rates across all industries. Contributing to the overall recruitment issues are the alarming decreases in new teacher graduate and teacher preparation enrollments over the past decade. Also concerning is that Maryland has seen an almost 7% increase in student enrollment during the same time frame. These numbers demonstrate that WCPS must focus more attention on Grow Your Own and apprenticeship programs to ensure that we are actively cultivating the next generation of educators. WCPS saw a 25% decrease in applications, which appears to be attributable to declines in college enrollment and graduation rates and continuing labor fluctuations. WCPS was excited to participate in a full slate of teacher recruitment fairs for the first time since 2019, although there was a noticeable decline in the number of teacher candidates. Additional recruitment was managed through a variety of venues, including billboards, radio, newspapers, social media, email marketing, and traditional mailers. Positions are also advertised on job boards for diversity in education, education-related services, STEM teaching positions, Maryland Workforce Development, and the Veterans to Teachers program. And WCPS was pleased to continue our partnership with Frostburg State University's Maryland Accelerates program. This 13-month accelerated MAT program allows career changers to student teach for a full year while taking classes during the summer and evenings. WCPS accepted 14 students into the first cohort, with 13 hired as full-time teachers this school year. A second cohort is now in their second month of student teaching, and WCPS will have funding available for a third cohort of 6 student teachers in 24-25. Now the great news. Despite all the challenges the WCPS has faced in recruitment and national trends, we are extraordinarily blessed to welcome a record number, 239 new teachers this school year. However, I need to make a correction. We actually are now at 244. We have hired 6 more teachers since this slide was created, including 2, I think, today. So we never stop. Normally, this would be the time of the program where I would share some demographics about where our students come from, the makeup of what our teacher body looks like. But I wanted to do something different this year. Those numbers look pretty much the same. Where we get our students from haven't changed a lot. What I would like to do right now is just say thank you. I'd like to say thank you to our entire human resources team, professional development, curriculum and content specialists, building administrators, teachers, support staff, board members, senior leadership in our community. This has been a phenomenal effort by all of us to ensure that we have the very best educators and support teams for our students. So thank you to everyone that has helped us get to where we are. To reiterate what an impressive year we've had, here is a historic perspective of new teacher hires over the past decade. We did have curricular changes at the middle school math and ELA that influenced this spike to some extent. So I would anticipate to see this number return to more historic averages next year. Here's a snapshot of some of our content areas hires, including critical areas of English, math, science, career, and technical education, special education, and world languages. Again, you can see there's a record number of English and math hires with 30 and 28 respectively. Many of our new teachers have a previous connection to WCPS, including 46 substitutes and 41 student teachers. We also welcomed a nice mix of teachers with experience to WCPS, with 57% having taught previously and 43% that are new to the profession. And at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Jenny Burkhart.
Thank you, Tim. I am excited to be here with you to talk about teacher induction program and teacher induction academy. So, as Tim was saying, we just hired 2 new teachers here today, and we are excited about that. And so, teacher induction program is always assessing the needs of our new and our late hires in Washington County Public Schools. So what we started this year, as you can see on this slide, is a June teacher induction, or June teacher academy, and invited any late hires from the previous year who missed the August teacher induction academy to meet with content specialists and teacher induction mentors to reflect on their experiences as a late hire and continue learning about content and classroom strategies. Then, in August, the Teacher Induction Program began with a major event for all new hires, the Teacher Induction Academy. So through the support of everyone at CES, and I mean everyone at CES, including you, thank you, and everybody at the schools, the principals, the lead teachers, and everybody who was working, in August, the community businesses, and WCTA, we began the year helping new hires prepare for the first weeks of school in both classroom climate, and culture. I can hear this one. Can you hear me better? Okay. Everybody at home just missed what I said about how awesome everything was. So on this next slide, you can see with the teacher induction program, please note that the WCPS teacher induction program does not stop after the academy. The teacher induction mentors plan a full year of teacher training using a coaching approach to improve student learning and professional learning to support teacher practice and growth. And again, this slide demonstrates here that the teacher induction program does not exist alone. We seek to make connections with all departments so that our new hires feel valued in their specific job role and understand what Washington County has to offer. So a big thank you to everyone on the slide, and especially our experienced teachers who are always working with our new hires. And our last slide here, everybody always asks me, what's this coaching thing that you do? What do you mean by that? And teacher induction mentors and the lead teachers. So this last slide we put together to show you the partnership that exists between a new hire and a teacher induction mentor or lead teacher in a coaching relationship. We have 8 teacher induction mentors who work mainly with first-year teachers, and they average 33 teachers and report to 5 or 6 different schools on a weekly basis. Then our lead teachers continue working with second and third-year teachers at individual school sites so that a new hire feels a full 3 years of support. So the goal of Teacher Induction Program is to partner with new hires to help them identify student-focused goals, choose strategies to improve student learning, both behavioral and academic, and measure challenges and successes throughout their first 3 years in Washington County. And we do have many successes to celebrate with this new group of teachers and with our second and third year teachers. So thank you for listening. And do you have any questions for us?
I attended one of your days that you had everyone coming in, and I was very impressed with the welcoming that was greeted all these new teachers, the excitement. You can see it on their face. I'm sure a lot of them were scared. They didn't know all the things that were going to happen, but they were so relaxed, and I think it was probably because they were told it's going to be a good environment. But then when Dr. Savine asked the different, from the different states and the countries, I was like, are you kidding me? I think was there someone from Australia? It was like a foreign country. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Virginia, all these different states that they were coming. And I thought that was so impressive that some of them just wanted to come here. I mean, I'm sure through travel and family, but to pick us. instead of another, teaching location. I was very impressed with that. So I thought that whole morning, and we only could stay for a little bit of part of it, but it was very rewarding to see that and to see the excitement from these new hires. So congratulations on that. I mean, this is not a new project, but this was the first time that I saw it firsthand, and you do a great job. So congratulations on all that.
I'm happy to make any trips to Australia.
Sure.
And thank you. And it is really rewarding. I just met a new hire today, and they chose us over another Maryland county. I won't mention the Maryland county, but
Yeah, good job, good job.
so.
You can tell us afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you both for all the fine work that you do. It's very appreciated.
I'll just say, I think Mr. Gessler captured it very well, and Mrs. Burkhart, Mr. Haynes, and our HR team, and all of our leaders in our schools that work together to really attract and retain the best to serve our students. We have a strong recruitment and retention process in place, and you make us proud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we had some major news in high school sports over the weekend. I'd like to congratulate two of our schools for becoming state championships in volleyball again. This is the second consecutive state championship win for both schools. The North High School Hubs defeated Arundel 3-0 to claim their title in 3A in the 3A competition, and the Clear Spring Blazers went 5 sets against our own Smithsburg Leopards, with the Blazers taking home their second consecutive state title in Class 1A. You think about this. What are the odds of two county schools meeting in a state championship? So just amazing for both schools, and we're proud of them. We certainly look forward to celebrating with the teams at our December business meeting. We'll also be recognizing an individual cross-country champion from Smithsburg as well. This year, we have engaged our staff in a system-wide professional development to help promote positive climate and culture in our schools. Recently, we focused on shared learning experiences, and these are activities where all students, regardless of their learning abilities or background, can gain the same benefit. I want to share a video now of how our two teachers think about the creation of shared experiences for students in their classrooms.
I think when we're looking at creating shared experiences for our students, we have to think about the ways that students receive input so that we can value what it is that they're later able to output. What are we going to be able to do with this reading after we get done doing the reading? Today, we're going outside with my students, and we're going to look at making tapetes de acerrín, which are sawdust carpets, and we're prepping for Day of the Dead. Experiential learning is hands-on, it's student-driven, it provides agency, it's student choice, student voice. And so I want my students to be able to read, I want them to be able to write, I want them to be able to listen, and I want them to be able to speak. And so they have to hear language, they have to read language, and they have to involve themselves in the cultural context of the language that we're studying so that they can get the broader picture. When we're looking at ensuring that our instructional practices and the shared learning experiences are accessible for all, I think it boils down to understanding your students and differentiating your lessons based on your understanding of those kids. And this goes back to knowing the lived experiences of your kids, knowing the kids that come into your classroom. Who are they? Where are they from? What are they proud of? What are they feeling a little apprehensive about? And how can we take time in our classes as teachers to understand our students? And we can do that through curriculum, or we can do that through informal conversations in the hallway or a chance in study hall to have a chat. But when we use students' lived experiences, when students see themselves in our classroom, when students feel heard and valued, that immediately brings life to the classrooms.
When thinking about planning shared experiences, I really reflect on what a teacher's role really is. When you think back to your childhood, and you think about role playing in your bedroom with stuffed animals all lined up, I like to think about, back then we thought teaching was the teacher doing all the work and all the instruction and lecturing, and our students were just silent and obedient. Now that we're teachers, we really know that the role of a teacher is to facilitate an active and challenging environment to meet the needs of so many diverse learners. So it's crucial that I really know who I'm teaching. I need to know their individual strengths, their weaknesses. I need to know how to support them as learners with their special needs, their cultural and language backgrounds, and what's relevant to them at their age level too. So it is crucial to me to prioritize pacing and teach with urgency. I have 180 days to make a difference with these kids, to celebrate them, to challenge them, and to make a shared learning experience very meaningful. Anyone that knows me knows how much I love my 3 beautiful children and my husband and my golden retriever, Gunner. Gunner finds his way into many story problems, many problem-based lessons. So I love to share parts of my family and what's important to me, and that includes my dog. I find that integrating our own personal lives into our daily classroom lessons really sets a tone of respect and value. When students get to know me as a person instead of just me as Mrs. Dawson, their first grade teacher, we really make lots of connections together. And then that branches off into them feeling safe about sharing what's going on in their lives and us celebrating things that make them individual and special.
I think that video really captured a quick snapshot into our classrooms. You see the level of engagement and perhaps most importantly, the intentionality in terms of including student voice and to inspire strong learning experiences. Lastly, I'll just say at this point, most of our students and staff have already begun their Thanksgiving break. Our schools will be closed for the remainder of this week for the Thanksgiving holiday, and we look forward to welcoming everyone back on Monday, November the 27th. I'm so thankful for being able to be in a position to serve our students, our staff, and the families of Washington County Public Schools. I'd also like to thank this board for your leadership and promoting the best interest of our students. We are sharing a message now with our school community this evening. I'd also like to take a moment just to share in this meeting. So at this time, we will share our Thanksgiving message to our community.
This year I'm thankful for my grandma. My favorite Thanksgiving tradition is getting together with my family. My favorite thing about Thanksgiving is me showing off my cooking skills. My favorite thing about Thanksgiving is spending time with my family and eat delicious food with them.
This year, I'm thankful for my mom's great cooking. Well, her cooking's not that good, but I'm thankful for the effort.
My favorite thing about Thanksgiving is spending time with my family and having fun together. I am grateful for this school and my family. I'm thankful for relationship, happiness, joy, and kindness.
This Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for my friends and family always being by my side.
This year, I'm thankful for my new puppy.
What I'm thankful for is about my family and that I love them, and the people that died in my family are in my heart.
I am thankful for my good sportsmanship.
This year, I'm thankful for the fresh smell of Old Forge. Home sweet home. I am thankful for my religion, my mom, my brothers, and my favorite part of Thanksgiving is when I go to my grandma's house.
This year, I'm thankful for my family and friends.
As a school system and as a community, we have countless reasons to be thankful. I'm so grateful for our incredible students, staff, and families. Your hard work and support truly make our community special. I hope you spend this Thanksgiving making memories with your loved ones, relaxing and reflecting on all your blessings. On behalf of Washington County Public Schools, I wish you all a warm and wonderful Thanksgiving.
Good.
Very nice.
all I have this evening, and again, I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dr. Savine. Okay, next we have personnel actions with Dr. Jennifer Webster. Dr. Webster?
Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Savine. As discussed earlier during closed session, there are several staff changes for your review, and at this time, I ask for your approval of today's personnel actions.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams,
Move to approve the personnel actions dated Tuesday, November 21st, 2023, as presented in closed session.
Thank you, Mrs. Swearingen.
Second.
Detmeyer? We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve personnel actions dated today, Tuesday, November 21st, 2023, as they were presented in closed session. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous vote, so the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Webster.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have reports to the board. Dr. Detmeyer, would you like to begin down there with curriculum instruction, please?
I would. Curriculum and instruction met last Thursday at Williamsport Elementary. Principal Rhonda Smith welcomed us and provided an overview of the exciting things that are happening at this very data-driven school. It's a great magnet school, and it's #1 in many areas, much to my deep appreciation, as my grandson Ethan is one of those magnet students. Dr. Willow presented Maryland College and Career Readiness Report in the new CCR standard proposal currently under consideration by the Maryland State Board of Education. We started looking at the program of studies, and that is currently being revised to be much more parent and student friendly. And finally, we received ESSA and expert review team updates. And our next meeting will be here, 10 a.m. on January 12th, to discuss the program of studies.
Finance, Mr. Evans?
Yeah, we met October 12th, I think it was, and we discussed a bunch of things. Some of them, the spending that we had today. Dr. Willow came in and told us about some of the new supports we have for math and everything. So it was a good meeting. I will say I actually do have a question though. In that meeting, I did ask for some specific spending items that we had, and there's a little bit of confusion. I got some information that, I was happy to see it, but I did ask 2 weeks ago also for the line item spending, so we haven't yet received that. Dr. Savine, would we be able to get that by Tuesday, since as it was alluded to earlier today, that we are going to be coming up on our budget discussion, I think in the beginning of January there. Could we get that information by Tuesday so that we would be able to go and have some good dialogue there for those discussions?
I will work with staff. I need to receive an update in terms of where we are with that report. We will make every effort to do so by Tuesday, but if not, we will have that to board members in a weekly update.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gessert?
Oh, and sorry, we are meeting December 15th at 8:30 again.
Facilities will be meeting next Tuesday, November the 21st at 1:30.
Mr. Bickford? Policy review and development.
We met on November 16th. We talked about strategic planning, as well as a drug-free workplace policy that we updated tonight. We also looked at recommended changes to the strategic planning policy to emphasize collaboration with stakeholders. And we also discussed the do not resuscitate policy, which will come up later. And the committee's next meeting is scheduled for December 14th at 2 p.m.
Thank you. Mrs. Murray, Human Resources?
Yes, we haven't met for a month or two, and we will not meet again until sometime in January.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder, would you like to make a report on student government?
Of course. We actually held the Washington County Association of Student Councils held our second GA of the year last week in this very room on Tuesday the 14th. I had the opportunity to speak with students across the county about school level issues, things that they were doing well in their school student councils. We exchanged ideas, and I also discussed with some student leaders throughout the county a possible new and revised system for electing the student member on the board, which would be a little more representative of students throughout the county, which I'm really excited about. That was a lot of what I wanted to do on the board. The Maryland Association of Student Councils had their fall leadership conference on Saturday at Seneca Valley High School in Montgomery County. I, along with about 20 other students from Washington County, attended, which was a huge delegation for us. I was really impressed. I was really proud. I was able to present 2 different workshops to students from across the state and hear a lot of different perspectives. And get to talk with a couple of different student members, which was really exciting and a really good time. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
That report. Okay, that concludes reports to the board. We'll move to miscellaneous business. Per usual, we have one item, and that is the future agenda item list. You should have received a copy, colleagues, in your packet. Coming up on December 5th, the board has a work session where we will have the opportunity to discuss our board norms and communication processes to decide which of those are serving us well, which, if any, need to be revised, and perhaps some need to be eliminated, and then perhaps others need to be added. So I'll be sending an email about that shortly, so watch for that email. Also, on December 5th, we have the second part of the work session. We will have a report on student enrollment and free and reduced meal eligibility rates. Also, on the 5th, we are having a special meeting where we will undertake the board's reorganization. And then on December 19th, we'll be back in a business meeting where we will be approving, looking at, considering, and hopefully approving the middle and high school program of studies that Dr. Zentmeyer mentioned we'll be looking at in curriculum and instruction. So we will be taking formal action on our operating norms and communication processes at that business meeting. And as Dr. Sovine said, we'll be recognizing our student athletes for the student championships at that December 19th meeting. So that's what we have upcoming for the month of December. If you have anything that you would like to see on a future agenda, please let a member of the Agenda Planning Committee know. We'll take care of getting that on an agenda. Okay, so that concludes our business, and we will move now to board member comments. Would you like to begin?
Sure. About 3 weeks ago at this point, I visited South Hagerstown High School and shadowed a student throughout the day. It was a great time. I also got to attend a student council meeting of the school. I met a lot of really nice teachers, a lot of really welcoming students. It was a great time. The student members throughout Maryland had a Zoom call last night to discuss just county matters, state matters, as well as work on some small projects, so it was really nice to hear from that. Student member on the board nominations for Washington County have opened at this point through Washington County Association of Student Councils. They opened last Friday, I believe. So the process for that is that you reach out to our county staff advisor, Mr. Jesse Orth, and you submit a letter of candidacy, I believe, and then from there the process begins. I welcome and encourage any and all students to apply. It's an amazing opportunity. And I wanted to wish everyone a fantastic holiday and to enjoy the break and spend some time with loved ones. Thank you.
That's all I want to say is happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and enjoy the break.
Same. Happy Thanksgiving.
Had the opportunity to attend 2 Veterans Day celebrations, one at Williamsport Elementary where I have a granddaughter, and the other one at Clear Spring High School. both very nice celebrations. Interestingly enough, I ran into a relative. I can't remember if he said he was an uncle, but he was related to our former superintendent, Mr. Michael, and we got to talking and found out he was in a sister unit of the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam, and so we worked out of some of the same fire bases and night defensive positions, so we got to talking about that. I want to explain, some of you may have seen me using this tonight. I have a hearing problem. It works very well, and I joke when I say this, it works very well when my wife is communicating with me, because I can always claim I didn't hear her. But she's not listening, so it doesn't matter. But I do have trouble understanding or hearing some of the speakers, especially the ones who come up during public comment and so forth. So I want to thank the tech department and Mrs. Rom, whose idea this was, for helping me with this until I get my hearing aids from the VA, hopefully. I was on the phone the other day for 2.5 hours with them, and that was an escapade. But anyhow, I just want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, and I think just living in this country, we have, with the problems that we do have, we still have a lot to be thankful for.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Mr. Kessler?
Thank you. I also, too, would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, especially our staff who work very hard throughout the year for us. I hope that they have some time to reflect with their families and enjoy their time. So we appreciate them, and I wish them a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Mr. Evans?
I'm thankful for all the people who stay and listen to us. I know, me personally, I know I like to ramble on, so thanks for putting up with me. But on Saturday, I was down in Boonesboro for the start of the JFK 50 miler.
Oh, wow.
And why people think it's a good idea to run on the Appalachian Trail up and down it after it rained on the rocks and everything is beyond me. But I was the crew, I guess they called me. I don't know. But I had a friend who actually ran in it, and she did finish, which I thought was incredible, for the 4th time. And I got to go and help out at each of the aid stations to make sure she had everything she needed. And along the way there, I ran into a couple of Boy Scouts who are also students. So it is a very long day. My friend finished in exactly 11 hours and 58 minutes. So these students are out there all day and giving back to the community. So it was great to see the kids doing that too.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Dr. Zedmeyer?
My mom was an artist, so when Ali Serval, the executive director of BISFA Foundation, invited me to be fully immersed, I was excited as a non-artist. However, I did make my first bowl. We sang, well, I say we danced. I watched everybody else dance. We saw AI, incredible presentation by students. The orchestra, which I didn't even realize the orchestra and the band were so strong there. Drama, it was a wonderful, wonderful day. It made me want to be in high school yet again. The board met with state legislators to present our priorities, and it was an exciting day with not only them, but Paul Fry and the chamber at a luncheon. I was able to attend Mabe's public school law book presentation. I have to tell you that I've used this a lot. There's a lot of writing in the margins, but it is now obsolete. The laws have changed. Just in the time that I've been a board member, I may as well just toss it or just trust Mrs. Ram. Clear Springs Veterans Day Assembly, like Mr. Stauffer said, was absolutely moving and thoughtful from the very beginning until Colton played taps. It was the marches of the armed forces, though, where the people in that audience stood up when their particular anthem was played, that you couldn't do anything but cry. And Mr. Stauffer, thanks so much for your service. We appreciate you. Finally, I got this cool CTE T-shirt from the apprenticeship bash at South Hagerstown High School, where community members come together with our students to talk about what they can do to network. At the same time, there was a band concert and athletic awards were being presented, so it was a great trifecta evening. But most importantly, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. May it be safe and may it be relaxing. We're incredibly blessed in Washington County, and I am so grateful for this opportunity to serve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Setmeyer. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Be safe. Enjoy your families. Give thanks. And with that, we are adjourned.